you've just heard, this is part of a quite large project. And actually, it's part of two quite large projects, one of which I've recently finished, and of course, the new one on the cultural history of the NHS that I'm now beginning. But what I want to talk about is what happens to practice when patients are involved, and in particular, what happens to research practice. So we have a model, we historians have a model whereby we understand the role of patients as clinical material, dead or alive. And this is certainly a model that operated in the early NHS as well. Excellent. Patients or patient bodies are seen as solutions. And in the post-war period, this is often the case, particularly at medical frontiers. And this is a model in which patients are certainly involved in research, perhaps not as knowing agents, or at least not as equal agents. They are not a part of what you might think of as the imagined community of medicine. And before I move on to my main example, which is slightly different, I'm going to talk a little bit about how this model works. So the model of the patient as clinical material operated very strongly in relation to frontier medical biochemistry in the period from the 1950s onwards. And in particular, it operated in the case of rickets, that is, nutritional rickets. Because of rationing and all of the nutritional supplementation of the welfare years after the war, nutritional rickets, true rickets as it was often called in the medical literature, had almost died out in Britain by the 1950s and 60s. And yet, it was one of the first diseases that was rendered extremely available for biochemical and molecular biochemical analysis because of the ways in which it was understood. And this was a problem for people like the quite famous metabolic clinician Charles Dent, who I've quoted on the slide. He really wanted to find out how this metabolic disease worked in the body. But he was only able to find cases not of normal physiology, but of people who had inherited metabolic conditions that caused them to have resistant rickets. And the only patient he was able to find that had what he called true rickets in order to test his treatment was a migrant. He looked very carefully for other cases of the same, and as he said, I began to organize a trial as opportunity arose. So this particular population, this unusual and new population for Britain, allowed people who were on the cutting edge of their science to investigate normal physiology in a disease that had become, from the English disease, one that was extremely abnormal in Britain. And this would only become more the case as the population of Britain changed demographically to include a much larger Asian population. To the delight of biochemists across the country, the Asian population was found to suffer much more commonly from nutritional rickets. And in fact, to the extent that it was very common to see in the medical press a description of this as Asian rickets. S.W. Stanbury, famous for his work in metabolic disease in Manchester, and the pioneer of that research, thanks to the Wellcome Trust, was delighted to write to the panel on child nutrition at the DHSS that he had an available population. He writes, local cooperation, this case with this migrant community, is so good that I have little, if any, doubt about their willing cooperation, their willing availability. And this was this classic model. He had a population, they needed something medically, he could use them. But what's really crucial about this, and what really tells us where his heart lay in this case, is the quote that I've placed on the other side of the slide. He's writing into the Ministry of Health, who are trying to find ways to pilot clinical and service investigations to end the very embarrassing problem of rickets in a both racialized and underserved population. And he twists their arm. He wants the money. He wants to get funded to do this research. But, he says, further pilot examinations could only be done if a byproduct of our clinical examinations were the acquisition of biochemical information relevant to our personal research interests. In other words, he'll do the clinical work, but only if his research agenda and that of his teams is enhanced by it. And I think this is the model that perhaps unfairly we historians often envision when we're thinking about patients as clinical material. Perhaps even worse, in this case, is that the evidence that was eventually generated through this kind of biochemically led research was used to justify a policy that stressed assimilation and change on the part of this ethnic minority population, rather than one that stressed responding to the condition within what were established dietary and cultural practices. And in fact, members of the Asian community who were medically trained argued that it was a bit unfair to encourage Asian populations in Britain to adopt the British diet, just when the British diet itself was coming under such criticism for producing problems like heart disease. Nonetheless, this was the result of discoveries that were being made by S.W. Stanbury and his peers on the biochemical front. But not all cases are like that, and one of the real pleasures of the research I've been doing, and the new project that I'm doing, which allows me to talk more to clinicians and more to patients as well, is finding examples where this isn't the case, and where we have patients acting in the fashion of agents, and taking, in many ways, very active control in the research process, and working with their clinicians to form a community that's often been unimagined. A community in which patients and researchers are working together, sometimes against government, sometimes against budget cuts, in order to improve treatment and to improve medical knowledge. And the case of sickle cell, thalassemia, and molecular genetics is the one I want to explore. Now, in the 1950s, sickle cell was the acme of the scientific frontier. The discovery that there was a genuinely molecular and genetic disease that could be understood, the genes for which had been identified, and that could be pinned down all the way from DNA to RNA to protein, was almost magical in this period. And just to give you an example of the enthusiasm for the frontier, I've given you the passionate hematologist to his love from the Lancet in 1954. Come live with me and be my love, and we will all the pleasures prove that observations in the field of hematology may yield. There corpuscles red and white will glad our microscopic sight, and we shall sit beneath the trees and calculate our MCVs, or wander through a leafy dell, discoursing of the sickle cell. But it had extra advantages if you were a researcher in Britain, because the politics of race in the United States, as this disease became more and more the forefront of molecular genetics, were terrible. The cartoon I put up from Norman Mansbridge in Punch gives you a sense of the way that the UK was looking across the Atlantic, seeing the racial tension, seeing the race riots, and, as he puts it, applying fire precautions in the form of race relations legislation. And indeed, for biological and particularly medical researchers, suddenly this was an opportunity, because it was a chance to get one up on the United States. Now, for those of you who are researchers and are familiar with the ways of funding, it is a lot easier to argue that you're going to create internationally relevant research if you're not constantly chasing after a much larger and better funded scientific establishment. And the arrival in the UK over the course of the 50s through to the 70s of a new population who suffered with or experienced sickle cell and thalassemia, but who were not as actively and angrily engaged in a struggle about race. And in a country where race had not been, despite Powellism, politicized to the same extent, meant that although, as the DHSS acknowledged, there were problems about racial prejudice around studying the hemoglobinopathies, yet at the same time, there were still opportunities to work with patients and to research patients that simply didn't exist in the USA. So, whether it was bad blood or bad politics, elite clinical researchers and elite scientific researchers spoke firmly both to the MRC and to the DHSS to say, not only this is a problem that we can handle here in Britain, but actually this is a problem where we can uniquely in the world take leadership. And I won't read out all of these quotations to you, they're there for your use. They had a much better wicket, as David Weatherall said in 1974. Because of the particular difficulties in the United States, I doubt if they will be able to see this trial through. By particular difficulties, he meant riots. And I think we are really on a much better wicket to get some very valuable information about the management of thalassemias in this country without joining the larger Big Riots trial. A study of sickle cell disease, too, Gillian Ford replied, would be more easily accomplished in the UK than the United States. Consideration should be given to how this could best be achieved. So here we have half of the community. We have elite researchers both inside and outside state establishments, whether it's the NHS or the DHSS, really interested in how they can make the arrival of a new and less politicized population work for British science. At the same time, of course, they're working within the NHS, and that eliminates a whole other suite of problems that researchers in the United States faced, because all patients could access medical support and could therefore be available for medical research for free. They were better documented, record keeping was consistent and of a higher standard, and perhaps unusually, certainly unusually in America, there was unanimity amongst clinicians about how thalassemia should be treated. And this is when they really turned to looking at thalassemia, because such unanimity certainly didn't exist with sickle cell. So that's half of the story. An ideal research environment, a chance to lead the world in science without perhaps having to invest at the same level as the United States, and real incentive from people whose voices were heard, both in the MRC and in the DHSS, to get this research done. But they had another ally. They had the ally of the patient communities themselves. So, and again, I'm going to focus on thalassemia. We can talk about sickle cell afterwards. Here we have, in London, right at the center of the scientific research itself and the biomedical research, a community that was actively seeking care, that was actively seeking treatment, and that was very determined to get innovation. And so reports start to come in, both in the press and from the medical researchers, about people who are demanding change in the response to this particular hemoglobinopathy. And that's partly because if you have beta thalassemia, then you die at a very early age if you're not treated well. And even if you are successfully treated, your lifestyle is very, very severely compromised. In the period that we're talking about here, the mid-70s, parents knew that if their child was born with beta thalassemia, life was going to be extremely difficult and probably very short. And they were determined not to let that happen. They were also very alert and aware of potential changes that were going on both in medical research and in service research. And so we had a case where a clinic is opened, an experimental clinic is opened to do amniocentesis. And women themselves find out about this clinic, and basically they swamp it. They want this service, they want it to be improved, they want earlier diagnosis, genetic diagnosis of their fetuses. They want to have control. And I think that's something we saw looking at the papers this morning as well. Women wanted to have reproductive control, in this case, in order to produce healthy children. And what the doctors of this clinic reported, a researcher Bernadette Medell, there was that the decision about what services to offer, what experiments to try in terms of helping parents with thalassemic children and parents at risk of thalassemia, the decision was taken for us. A Pakistani woman doctor, knowing of our work, allowed herself to become pregnant, although at high risk of producing an abnormal baby. She came to us 4 weeks pregnant and said, "What are you going to do? I want the test." Rather aghast at having her hand forced in this way by a patient, they rang collaborators in Boston, in the United States. They laughed and said the same thing had happened to them the day before. Patients are taking charge. They're acting as agents because they want to control the circumstances under which they raise their families. But they're also taking charge and complying. So another report stresses the fact that these women, in this case from the Cypriot community, were a queue of women waiting for permission to become pregnant. So on one hand, they're patients who are demanding and who want change, but they're demanding within the boundaries of medical and clinical expectations. They're hygienic citizens. They're doing what they're supposed to do. And they're also acting as political citizens at the same time. So, for example, they organize themselves and begin to petition not just to have treatment, but actually for those treatments and research into those treatments to be funded. So by 1976, the DHSS is facing a position where elite researchers on one hand are demanding that they should be given the opportunity to win the scientific battle with the United States on largely nationalistic grounds, And at the same time, patients are saying, we're here and we're not going away. We demand that quick action be taken aimed at eliminating these diseases. They petition in Parliament. They get their MPs to petition. And they also leverage the hot issue of the day, racial tensions. And so working with another pediatric specialist, Eric Stroud, two citizen groups come forward and they get him to speak for them to the DHSS. And what he says is basically, you've got to help these guys or we're going to have the same racial problems that they have in the United States. I cannot emphasize enough how very important to our country is the active encouragement of the creation within West Indian society, so this was about sickle cell, of voluntary organizations designed to help their own problems. If such organizations which are known to be good are allowed to fail, it could have disastrous results on the morale of those individuals in the West Indian Society in London who feel that something should be done about what they see as disprivilege. And the DHSS knuckles under, essentially. The importance of giving such encouragement is recognized from both the moral and political viewpoint of promoting racial harmony, and also as a means of involving immigrants in the understanding of the implications of genetically transmitted diseases peculiar to groups of non-British origin. So we still have that shadow of assimilation and integration, but essentially by leveraging a political problem, by tying treatment for thalassemia and treatment and diagnosis for sickle cell anemia to the race problem, linking it back to the perils that are very visible across the Atlantic in the United States, communities and elite clinicians find a lever to move the DHSS and the MRC to promote research on something that is a very fascinating biological and scientific problem, but rather a small medical one. So here I've given you some of the images that come out of this struggle from the community side. And I have to say, this is a very image-poor research. There are very few pictures to do with these communities, or it doesn't become the subject of public health brochures, except in the hands of the community organizations themselves, which I think is extremely interesting. And what I would say is that this model in which small activist groups, patient activists, come forward and they leverage both politics and elite interest in order to generate treatment and to generate innovation is something that carries on. It carries on both in wider circles, so I think we're quite familiar with this kind of patient activism in relation to, for example, breast cancer now and HIV/AIDS, but this predates it. Right? This is earlier, using these political forces as a way of generating collaboration both with clinicians and amongst politicians. And of course it carries on in this particular community. So today, from the 1980s onwards, you can still see some of these traces. To campaign for universal sickle cell screening for neonatals, some politicians and some clinicians argued if this disease were suffered by white people, screening would be automatic, and drew attention to genetic conditions which were much rarer, but were indeed experienced more by the majority population. And of course, the force of women themselves, and in this case, ethnic minority women, demanding care and demanding innovation is still something that hits the headline. It was a thalassemic patient who was the original spur for lawsuits to enable savior siblings to be born. And it created considerable tension. So we see the fetus fight about whether siblings should have, whether people should be able to abort on the basis of these complaints. But we also see the idea of a plea for a designer baby. So the idea that this is uncontested would not be accurate, but it is extremely essential as a way of spurring and imagining new communities. If people, all of us, both patients and clinicians alike, stop thinking of the active patient as a nuisance, a hassle, someone driving forward unnecessary change or making unnecessary demands, and begin imagining ourselves as a single community working together, some of the stresses and some of the strains that the NHS and medical research are under may actually be resolved. Thank you.